These are awesome.
Okay. Oh, and it's already being recorded. Excellent. Hopefully to my, okay, everybody looks like is coming in. Yeah. Welcome everyone. We'll wait until the numbers start to kind of even out. We'll slow down. Welcome everyone. We're just waiting for things to slow down. It looks like it has slowed down a bit in terms of people popping on. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and share. The screen. Nope, not that. What's going on here? Hold on. Oh, Cheryl, I know I said I was going to share, but
I can try. Let me see.
Okay, I might have figured it was like blocking me from clicking on it, but here. Okay, I think we got it now.
Looks good.
Okay, awesome. So hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us tonight for College Night for Seniors. We are excited to present you with a lot of information today. So really quick, we're just going to introduce ourselves. My name is Nicole Tuig. I'm the counselor for students with the last names T through Z. And Ms. Pacheco, I'll let you introduce yourself. She's also going to be presenting with me tonight.
Hi, I'm Cheryl Pacheco. I have students with the last names I through L, and we're excited to be here and share all this great information with you.
So first and foremost, we are not going to be looking at the Q&A tonight. We have a wealth of information to share with you, and if we took questions at the end of the night, we would be here for probably 5 hours, which I know nobody wants to spend 5 hours with us tonight. So the great news is, though, on Wednesday and Thursday during Access, we have college application workshops every Wednesday and Thursday through October and into November. And on Thursday of this week, we actually have an in-person college application workshop that we'll talk about as well, but you can come to that and get all of your questions answered. So we want to answer your questions. We just can't do it tonight because there just really, truly will not be enough time to get to everything. So what we will be covering tonight: who are your counselors? How do you access information that you need about college apps and getting help from your counselors? We'll talk a little bit about community colleges, the standardized testing, how to choose a major, how to get transcripts and letters of recommendation, private, out-of-state, and other application portals. And then we will go into depth on the UC and Cal State applications as well. So these are your AVHS counselors. I'm not going to go through every single person's name just in the sake of time, but this is how you get a hold of us with our email addresses, and we would love to hear from you. Some important dates to Keep note of, we have access workshops. They've been going on since September. They're going to continue through the end of October. Students can sign up for access through FlexiSchedule. And basically it's an opportunity to come work on your college applications and ask your questions and get help with them as you're just kind of walking through those applications. So it's a really great opportunity to get help with your applications. Tonight is obviously college night for seniors. We will be sending out the recording and a copy of our slides after the presentation. So you will be getting all of this information as well. On Thursday night, the 7th, we have college application night. That's going to be from 5 to 7:30 in the library. Parents are welcome, but you do need to come with a student, please. Bring your device, whatever you are working on your applications on, computer or laptop, whatnot. And it's a place where we will answer your questions, help you navigate those websites and applications, and just assist you as you actually fill out applications. We will have a pre-recorded video for a financial aid night coming out on November 17th. The Cal State and UC application deadline is November 30th. We actually got updated information from the CSUs this week that their application deadlines are going to vary. We'll talk about that a little bit, but November 30th is a good rule of thumb for both of those application systems. The FAFSA, which is the free application for federal student aid, so this is your financial aid application, is available to work on now, and it's due March 2nd. So you have some time, but we do encourage you to get that in as soon as you can. And then Las Positas College and most of the other community colleges in the area, their priority enrollment is going to start in January or February. So those are just some important dates to keep in mind. We have a lot of frequently asked questions, and we have a really, really, really wonderfully built out website full of good information that is really fairly easy to find considering the volume of information that's there. So we really encourage you to head to the Amador Counseling website and click on right on the quick links. There's college application info for seniors. And once you click there, there's a whole page of squares with, I mean, anything you can think of: how to get a counselor recommendation, how to build a college list, how to use Zello, which we'll talk about in a second, college application cheat sheets, frequently asked questions, timelines, anything you can think of is there. So if you have a question, definitely check our website first, because we've probably answered it somewhere there. But again, if you do have questions about this whole process, we know you do. It's very normal to have questions, and we want to be able to answer them as best we can. So we have sent out a senior packet, I think is what we called it, about 2 weeks ago. So make sure you check your email to check on that packet. It is a lot of wonderful information that you're often asking us. We also sent it along with videos because we know that video is the way that our students are absorbing information the most. So lots of videos there with how-tos as well. Again, access every Wednesday and Thursday, and then on Thursday night, the college application workshop are great places to get your questions answered. You can also sign up for an appointment with your counselor. We do ask that you attend an access or one of these evening workshops before you schedule an appointment with us. We would love to meet with every student individually, but it's just not feasible with the size of our caseloads. So this is how we're trying to really be able to serve everyone. I apologize for my dog drinking her water in the background. Perfect timing, Zadie. Okay, on to, let's chat just for a minute about community college. We are huge fans of the California community college system. We think it's such a wonderful resource for our students. This is a map of all of the California community colleges. As you can see, there are many of them. Several of them even have on-campus housing. So you can still have that kind of living on campus experience with a community college, with the benefits of community college. So community college is, you really aren't going to be applying to community college right now if that's your plan. The applications open sometimes in November, but really more like January, February of your senior year. Like I said, there's many to choose from. There's over 100 community colleges in California. Our students are typically going to Las Positas, Ohlone, and DVC if they want to stay local. And several students do choose to travel to Cuesta in San Luis Obispo, Santa Barbara City College, or Mesa College in San Diego. And those all do have like student housing opportunities. It's much less expensive to attend community college. That's one of the big perks. So somewhere, tuition costing somewhere around $1,500 each semester, compared to a couple $1,000s at the four-year colleges. There's no requirements to be able to enroll outside of either graduating from high school or being 18. No SAT, no ACT, no essays, all of that. So it's really an incredible opportunity for any student who wants to further their education. You can earn AA degrees, or you can transfer to a four-year institution. And they do have a really cool program called TAG agreements, where specific Cal States UCs or private schools have agreements with community colleges, where if a student takes certain classes and earns a certain GPA, they're automatically going to be admitted to that four-year university once they transfer. So really, really cool programs within the community college system. When you receive these slides, you can actually click on these colleges to link straight to them. Here's one of our amazing Amador students as a Las Positas student on their website. That was always so fun for us to see. So like we said, Las Positas College, Ohlone College, and Diablo Valley College are the main ones that our students go to if they were wanting to stay local. Okay, time to start talking about things that apply to four-year colleges. One of the hottest questions, of course, is standardized testing, as so much has changed with that over the course of the last year and a half. So most California colleges have waived the SAT or ACT testing requirement. And many have said they just will not even factor into the admissions decision, even if you have it to send them. Some out-of-state schools and private colleges are still requiring them for admission or maybe for scholarship consideration. So the most important takeaway from this slide and this piece of information is that you really should check with the colleges you're applying to make sure you have accurate information, because so much in everything in the college process, you can pretty much boil down to you need to check with your college because it depends on the college. But with this in particular, we want to make sure that you are not missing a requirement. But if you are only applying to California schools, you should be in pretty good shape, especially with the UCs and the CSUs. So the Cal State University system has temporarily suspended the use of the SAT, ACT. So this will basically go through the spring 2023 admission cycle. So this year seniors will not need to have an SAT or ACT. They will not accept it. They won't consider it. The UCs also are not taking the SAT or ACT when making admission decisions or awarding for scholarships. So they could maybe be used to place you in certain classes, like certain math classes or English classes when you get to a UC, but they're not being used to assess for admissions decisions. And the UCs have said they're developing their own exam. And so we probably won't see the SAT or ACT being used for the UCs as we move forward, but certainly not for the seniors this year. It's not a requirement. If you do have SAT or ACT scores and you want the colleges to have them and the colleges will accept them, they want to receive them, then you actually have to send your scores directly to the colleges from the SAT website, so the College Board, or the ACT website. That's not something that Amador does. We don't have access to your scores to send them to colleges for you. And you should allow at least 2 weeks for the scores to be processed and sent. Even though we're in the age of the internet and technology, sometimes things still take time. So make sure you request that at least 2 weeks in advance. Subject tests are no longer required for the UCs. That's actually been that way for a little while. They're not required. There may be some UC campuses that recommend or would encourage you to submit a subject exam, particularly for some of the more competitive majors in the STEM field, but they are not required for admission for any of the UCs. And really, there's a few colleges that may require them. So usually like Georgetown and some of the more highly selective colleges may require them. But most colleges really are not requiring them at all this year. So again, check with the colleges that you're planning to apply to make sure that you're not missing that requirement. But most colleges really are not requiring the subject exams this year. If you're not sure what they are, they're 1-hour exams on a given subject. So something like biology or a world language or US history. And they are just kind of used to demonstrate mastery of a subject, a way to kind of show another way that you're good at a particular subject. And let's see, is there any other information that's super important that I missed on this page? You can't take the SAT and the subject exams on the same day, nor would we recommend that anyway. Okay, a couple of tips for choosing a major. First point that we want to make is just, it's okay to take the pressure off of yourself to know exactly what you want to major in. Most colleges are really not expecting you to know exactly what you want to do at 17 years old. And they are hoping that you come to their college with the intent to explore and figure out what it is you really want to major in. And they have sort of that flexibility built into their curriculum. There are some colleges that want you to have a major from the get-go, but those colleges are, a much smaller percentage of the colleges that are out there. So it's okay if you don't know exactly what you want to do. Of course, we encourage you to have some idea of what you enjoy learning about, what you have strengths in, what your interests are in, and maybe some majors that might play into that. But again, you don't have to have everything absolutely figured out. Most people change their major a couple times while they're in college anyway. As you are thinking about your major and what you might want to major in, what your career path may be, you really want to start with your strengths and your interests. You want to take yourself to consideration, as you are likely to be more successful and find more joy and purpose and fulfillment in whatever career you choose, if it's something that plays to your strengths and your interests, right? We have a great platform called Zello that is really helpful in helping you understand kind of your strengths and interests, like I was saying, and then find careers and majors that match with that. So I'm going to show you that in just a second. Other ways to kind of figure out your major would be finding ways to explore that topic. Could you take a class in the subject area? Could you shadow or interview someone who has a job you may be interested in? Maybe you are interested in becoming a teacher and your uncle teaches math in middle school. Maybe you could take him to lunch and pick his brain about being a teacher. Can you volunteer in some way connected to the career or the industry that you're interested in? Those are just a couple ideas, but try and get your hands dirty, if you will, with the subject to see how you like it in real life. And then a tip that my mom actually gave me that I just love to share with my students and their families is a great way to kind of figure out maybe what major you want to be at a specific school is to actually go through their curriculum catalog and look at the classes that you would have to take with that major. My mom actually made me go through the entire catalog of Cal Poly's majors when I was deciding to go there. And I literally looked at every single class I would have to take as my major to see, okay, would the majority of these classes be something I would say, yeah, I'd love to take that class. That's interesting to me. And if you can say that about most of the classes, of course, you won't say that about every single class. That's just kind of impossible. But if you can say that about most of the classes, then you're probably on the right track to a good major for you, because if you're enjoying your classes and you're interested in them, you're going to do well in them. You're going to be able to make connections through them and set yourself on a path to a great career. So that was just a brilliant moment for my mom, I think. And hopefully it's helpful for you. So Zello it's our new Naviance. So we got a lot of questions at the beginning of the year. Where's Naviance? We can't get in. Yes, we know. The district has changed from using Naviance to this great platform, honestly, called Zello. You can access it through your Clever account. And when you're in Clever, you'll just look for this little icon that says Zello. And when you log in, your dashboard, which should look something a little bit like this. And in kind of that middle section that is circled in pink, there are some assessments that you can take. I strongly encourage you to take the matchmaker and the personality style assessment. And what that's going to do is it's going to look at your strengths and your interests, and it's going to match them with careers that might be a good fit for you. Once you've done that, you can go to the Explore Options tab. I think it says options. It's covered by my Zoom stuff. It says options. Okay, great. Explore options, and it will actually populate the careers that are a good match for you. You can sort them by the amount of years of education you might want, or the minimum salary that you might be interested in starting at. And then if you click on the careers down at the bottom, it will talk to you about what that career involves. It'll tell you all about like the average salary and job availability. And all the way down at the bottom, it will tell you the majors that feed into that career. So you kind of go like, okay, what are my interests? What are the careers? What are the majors that are involved with these careers? And then even from the majors, it can show you which colleges have those majors. So it's a great way to kind of back your way into figuring out maybe what colleges you want to apply to as well, by looking at the careers you're interested in, figuring out the majors involved in those careers, and then looking at the colleges that have that. You can save careers, you can favorite things. There's all sorts of fun things you can do in Zello. So I encourage you to check it out. I hope this made you giggle, this slide. Don't freak out. We are going to talk a little bit more about the nitty-gritty of applying to college now. It's time to talk about applying to college, but don't freak out. It really is going to be okay. Everybody makes it to the end of college application season. It all works out in the end. So here's a quick, just kind of timeline overview. What can you expect from your senior year through this application process? So we just passed through September, which is hopefully where you were finalizing where you wanted to apply and what deadlines you were planning to meet for those applications. If you haven't quite finalized yet, that's definitely one top priority for you right now. October and November are really the big months for just going through it and filling out the applications and just little by little plugging away at getting those done, writing your essays, etc. November is a big month for submitting applications. The UCs and Cal States are due in November, and all of the early action deadlines basically are also due in November. So that's a big time that you're going to be kind of pressing submit on those applications. In December through March, I know that's a wide range, but December through March is when you're really receiving those admissions decisions. If you applied early action, you're going to get more information and more responses in December. If you're applying through that regular decision application pool, or if you're applying to the UCs and Cal States, you won't find out until usually March of senior year, whether you've been admitted or not. And then May 1st is college decision day. It's the day that everyone needs to let their college know where they will be attending, and let the colleges they won't be attending know that they won't be attending there. So that is an exciting day for most seniors as well. Just a moment. Okay, so we're going to give you a couple of steps to follow in this process to kind of make sure that you are pacing in a good direction for these college applications. So step one, decide where and when you want to apply. Again, if you haven't done this yet, then this would be top priority. And if you need some help, we do have some presentations from last year that are really helpful in this step of the process. So a College Night for Juniors video presentation and the Building a College List that you feel great about video presentation are helpful, and they are linked here. So when you get the slides, you'll be able to link to them. They're also on our website under like junior year resources. Next, you want to get organized, okay? I feel like every year without fail, I get a student who is like trying to fill out this application and trying to start writing their essay, but they don't even really know where they're applying yet or what their deadline is, or if they even need to use that application to apply to their colleges. So the first thing to do is get organized before you jump into actually filling out these applications. Every college has different requirements too. So it's so helpful to have it all kind of outlined. Like, do I need letters of rec for every school? Do I need transcripts for every school? Do I apply through the Common App or the Coalition app, which we'll talk about in a second? But getting organized is going to save your sanity. And again, every college is so different in what they require that it's so important to be checking and keeping track of what they require for their applications, so you don't get stuck kind of last minute trying to figure out, oh no, I needed this and I didn't know, right? We have a fun checklist that you can use to keep track of all of these things. So it's going to prompt you, like, what is the deadline? Do they require SAT or ACT? Do they require your transcripts? How many letters of rec do they require? So this is a really helpful tool to get you organized and put everything in one place. That is linked in the slides, and I believe it's on our website as well. Oh, nope. It clicked on the link. Sorry, guys. Okay. All right. Do you need a transcript? How about a counselor letter of evaluation? Evaluation letter. Yes, that's a question we get most often these days. So a couple of how-tos, how to get transcripts. We're using a system called Parchment. I will show you the video on how to do that in just a moment. A couple of things to note: if you need a transcript to be sent by mail, like actual hard copy transcript, very rare that is needed anymore, but that is possible that may come up. Parchment will send it for you in the mail. You just have to make the request through Parchment. The Cal States and the UCs do not need transcripts. So please don't put in UC Berkeley, UC Riverside into Parchment. We don't need it. They don't need it. Don't do it, please. And really the reason being is Parchment charges $4.15 per transcript. We don't want you wasting money. So make note of what colleges actually need transcripts sent to them before you make your request. You can, any colleges that you're applying to through the Common App, you can just send the transcript to the Common App. So that will kill, potentially 15 birds with one stone. Please don't apply to 15 colleges. And then the UCs and Cal States don't need them. So potentially you're only sending like 1 to 2 transcripts through Parchment. We just want to make sure that you're thinking about that so you don't spend money that you don't need to spend. So here's that video. Let's see, will it play? Give me a thumbs up if you can hear it. it's just super helpful to like see those screens. So we've made videos. Miss C made the videos, and they are really, really helpful. If you're like, I don't know how to do it, I need a step-by-step. The videos are where you want to go. Those are also on our website. Okay, if you need a counselor evaluation, you may or may not need one. Okay, so first double check if you actually need a counselor evaluation, which is a written evaluation. But if you do need one, we ask that you request it from us at least 2 weeks before your earliest deadline. We have a counselor evaluation form that we also would like you to fill out, that we asked some really helpful questions for us as we are writing those evaluations and letters for you. Just helps us get to know you a little bit better. We really suggest that you actually have those questions and that form filled out before you come to us and ask for it, so that it's available the moment that we decide to, put open that document and actually start writing it. You will add your counselor in the Common App or other online portals to send that request. So that is the how do I request a counselor evaluation. After you've asked us, you actually put our email address in the Common App where it says counselor, and that will send us a link that we can then connect to your application that way. Please be aware of your college's deadlines, and also please note that December 2nd is the last date to request a counselor evaluation for your January deadlines. Why? Because we have the holiday break, and we do our absolute best to not work over the holiday break and actually take a break. So please keep that in mind as well. I'm not going to show this video, but this is also a linked video that is also on our website that will show you actually where in the Common App to request your counselor evaluation. Teacher letters of recommendation. There is not a set form to fill out on the Amador side like the counselors have with questions. So you can prepare a resume or a brag sheet for teachers if they would like to see that. But definitely speak to your teacher in person who you'd like to request from at least 2 weeks before your earliest deadline. And if you have a resume or a brag sheet that you can provide them, that's always helpful. They may also ask for one, but each teacher is a little individual in what they would like to see. And then again, you're going to add your teacher on the Common App or the other online portals that want teacher letters of recommendation. It's all a very similar process. You'll put their email address in, it will send them an email with a link. That link will connect their letter to your application. We often get asked, how many letters of recommendation should I send? And honestly, the answer, like, more is not better. 2 letters of rec tends to be average if a college accepts them at all. But really, if a college has not specifically asked for a certain number of letters of recommendation, do not go sending them things they didn't ask for. Really, when you think about your letters of recommendation, you want each letter to be able to say something, show the colleges something a little bit different about you, a different perspective, give them different information and insight about who you are as a student and who you might be on their campus. And so if you are, giving 5 letters, but they all basically say the same thing about you, because they're all people who've interacted with you in the same capacity, it's not going to be doing you any favors. In fact, it might annoy the admissions representatives to have a file full of letters that they didn't ask for. So more is not better. Less is more in this case, for sure. Okay, once you're all organized, you've gotten everything requested, it's just time to get to work. It's time to get into the application. So we're going to talk about some of the most common application platforms, and then Ms. Pacheco is going to take us on an in-depth look at the Cal State and UC applications. So for private schools and out-of-state colleges, the most common application portals that they use are either the Common App or the Coalition application. So those may be application portals that you might need to use if you're applying to private or out-of-state colleges. The Common application and the Coalition are both already open, so you can already be working on them. The Common application has over 900 colleges that utilize it, so it's a very common application to use. And so definitely check there, see if your colleges are accepting the Common App. The Common App does require a 650-word essay And then colleges are given the opportunity to ask additional essay questions, usually more like short answer, 350 words, but you may need to provide additional writing pieces for each college. So you can check on that within the Common App, and you can look and see what kind of supplemental essay questions your colleges might have, but be aware that it might not just be the one essay, there might be other essays involved. These schools also typically do recommend or require teacher recommendations and the counselor evaluation, school reports, etc. So that's usually a part of this application. And then the bottom piece, little gray and white grid here, is just some of the information that the Common App asks for that is specific to Amador, that is sort of frequently asked. So things like our class size, do we rank? Amador does not rank, and schools will not hold it against students that we don't rank. And our address, etc. So that we just wanted that information easily accessible for students as they are filling out the application. That's also in the senior packet that got sent out about 2 weeks ago. The Coalition is a relatively new application portal. It's used by about 150 colleges, and a lot of times colleges will allow you to do either the Common App or the Coalition application. So you don't have to do both, you can pick one or the other, but it's definitely important to take a look at all of your colleges and what application portals you could use so that you are minimizing the amount of work that you're doing. You may only have to do Common App or only Coalition if all of your colleges would allow you to use that one, right? The Coalition is actually a free application portal, which is nice. The Common App, there are application fees for some colleges. They also require an essay. It's a little bit shorter, 500 to 550 words, and colleges also still have the opportunity to ask additional questions. And about half of the schools require teacher evaluation or counselor evaluations, but they're still generally requiring teacher recommendations. So fairly similar applications in terms of what they ask for. So like I said, most colleges allow you to choose between the Common App or the Coalition. There are a couple of exceptions, very few. The University of Washington is exclusively a Coalition application school. So you have to apply through the Coalition application for University of Washington. And the Texas public schools typically have the option to do the Coalition or the Apply Texas app. Or the college's own platform. So there's kind of a couple of options within there. So you would definitely want to check if you're planning to apply to any of the public schools in Texas. So, and just there, the Apply Texas app is a very, very big one for any of the public schools in Texas. They're that centralized application portal for them. So if Texas schools are on your list, make sure you're getting familiar with that application portal. And some colleges still are just offering their own platform. MIT is a great example. Georgetown is another great example. They don't participate in the other application portals. And so you're gonna have to fill out their own application just for that college. So again, going back to the idea of getting organized first, so you know where you need to apply before you start filling out applications and potentially waste your time on an application that you don't need. Okay, I'm gonna go over just some of the general things that are shared between the UCs and the Cal States, and then I'll hand it over to Ms. Pacheco to take us a little bit deeper into these two college application systems. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this because hopefully this list is so familiar to you at this point, but these are the A to G courses and the requirements for admission for the UCs and the Cal States. If for some reason you think you have not met them yet, please talk to your counselor, although we have been making many efforts over the years to make sure that you are on track for these A to G requirements. So you've probably heard from us already if that's something that you are missing. So hopefully nobody is missing those requirements if you want to be applying to a Cal State or a UC at this point. A quick note just about GPA in general. Every college is going to calculate your GPA a little bit differently. Some colleges will just use your straight Amador GPA. Some colleges will weight all of your honors and AP classes. Some colleges will weight nothing and everything in between. Okay, so just know as you're applying that colleges are going to recalculate your GPA based on the things that they find important and the way that they've figured out how to, use a formula. The Cal States and UCs also have their own GPA calculation. This GPA only looks at 10th and 11th grade. It doesn't look at pluses or minuses. It only uses your A to G courses. So on your transcript, those would be courses that have a P in the title, like in parentheses in the title. Things like PE, not counted in your UC or Cal State GPA because it's not an A to G approved course. They are only going to give you an extra point, a grade bump, for a course with an HP in the title. So those are going to be AP classes and some of our honors classes. They cap the amount of extra points that you can get to 8 semesters worth or 4-year-long courses in your GPA. So even if you took 10 semesters worth of AP classes, they're only going to give you the extra point for 8 semesters of that. It's one of their ways of sort of leveling the playing field and accounting for different opportunities at different high schools. But most colleges will still look at the total number of APs or honors classes that you've taken. They're interested in the level of rigor and the way that you've challenged yourself. So they're going to look at the number that you've taken, but the GPA itself will only factor in those 8 semesters worth. There is a handy dandy GPA calculator on the Cal State website. It's linked here. And so you can actually go in, put in your A's, B's, C's, and etc. And figure out what that UC and Cal State GPA is. And that's the GPA that you would put into your applications. Couple of just side-by-side comparison of the UCs and the Cal States. Again, for their GPA, they're both only looking at 10th and 11th grade. They will take into account the 12th grade classes that you're taking, because again, they want to see that you're continuing to challenge yourself and grow academically. Neither of them are requiring the SAT or ACT now. SAT, the Cal States do not require it. The UCs, again, do not require it, but it could be recommended for some specific majors. The Cal States do not look at extracurricular activities, with the exception of Cal Poly San Luis Obispo, which has a question or two about your activities. Otherwise, the Cal States are not going to ask you anything about what you've done outside of the classes you've taken. The UCs do want to know about your extracurricular activities, and you have an opportunity to share those in the application. Cal States do not want an essay. The UCs do have 4 essays. You can choose from 4 out of 8 prompts, and they're about 350 words each. So short answer questions that the UCs will be looking at. Neither system requires a letter of recommendation. Neither would like to see your transcript. Every once in a while, a Cal State will email a student asking for a transcript to verify some things, but it's very rare, and you would get an email directly from the school asking for it. You apply to the Cal States through Cal State Apply, and the UCs through the UC application. 2 different application portals, but one Cal State Apply application will go to all of the Cal State universities. One UC application will go to all the UCs that you tell it to go to. So it's not automatically going to apply to every UC or every Cal State. You tell it which ones, but you use one portal to go to all the schools that you want to apply to. The Cal State and UC applications are both open now. The UC one opened in August. The Cal State one just opened this last Friday. The UC application is due November 30th, and you can begin submitting that application on November 1st. So you actually couldn't submit it today if you wanted to. You have to wait until November 1st. So you have November 1st to November 30th to submit that UC application. The Cal States used to have just a flat deadline of November 30th. As well, but we're seeing different campuses offer more or different deadlines this year. So a little confusing. I think putting November 30th as a rule of thumb for the Cal States is a really good idea. But again, checking with each individual college what their deadlines are is going to be helpful in this situation, because I think they're trying to provide more flexibility for students, but I think it's adding a little more confusion. My 2 cents. Some common application information that you're going to be asked. So just putting it out there, here's what you should put for these questions. You will need to select fall of 2022 as your application year or your enrollment year. You would be a freshman with or without college credits, depending on how that you answer that question for yourself. For the CSUs, you'll select your goal as a first bachelor's degree. That's typically what students are selecting. In both of these application systems, you can apply for a fee waiver within the application. So you'll put financial information in and apply for those fee waivers and be approved or not approved just within that application system. You want to enter the names of every school that you've attended from 9th to 12th grade, including any non-PUSD schools that you've attended. So a lot of students have taken classes through BYU or Quarry Lane or Apex. Those are schools that you also need to add to your application to be able to enter those classes using the A to G drop-down menu. So make sure you're reporting all high schools you've attended, even if it was just for one class. And Amador is on a semester system, and you've been in high school from August 2018 to June 2022 is when you'll graduate. So those are dates that they're going to ask for in both application systems. The UCs and Cal States will both allow you to report grades from middle school. They vary a little bit, but the UCs will allow you to report 8th grade grades from world language and math, and the Cal States 7th and 8th grade grades from world language or math. So if you took Algebra 1 or geometry, those are very common, or if you took Spanish 1A, Spanish 1B, or the French ones, those would be things that you would report on the UC and or Cal State application. In the UC application, you report all of your courses by the grade in school. So you'll go 9th grade and then 10th grade and then 11th grade. In the Cal State application, you report your classes and grades by subject area. So you'll do all of your history first and then your English, et cetera. So again, just formatted a little bit differently, but they're both going to ask you to self-report the classes you've taken and the grades you've gotten in those A to G courses. You will be asked to designate classes as honors level or not honors. And so you can find a list of the honors level classes from Amador that carry that weighted grade point in that link. And on your transcript, you'll know a weighted course or an honors level course is going to be designated as that HP in the course title. Some honors courses at Amador, like honors English, they're technically not given the honors designation within the UCs, and so they're not getting that extra grade bump. So when you're reporting it in the application, you're going to report it as not honors. Or none in the Cal State application. So there's links to all of that when you get to that point in the application if you need to come back and review it. This is so important. After you apply, you're going to get an email from the college that you applied to, and they're going to have a link to some portal. The Cal States have a portal, the UCs have a portal, the individual colleges that you might apply to through the Common App have portals. So you're going to be portaled out potentially, but this is where they're going to update you with if they're missing something that they need from you. If this is where they'll let you know whether you've been admitted or denied. This is where they'll ask you about, make sure you've got your financial aid information, or they'll place your aid offers in the portals. So your portals are really where it's at to check everything. So you want to make sure you set up your portals, you save your password and login information for those portals, and that you check them pretty regularly. Some colleges are not going to also email you, which is frustrating, but just the way it is. Some colleges are going to rely on you checking your portal to see if you need anything else. They're not going to email you if they're missing your transcript or something like that. And so you want to be checking your portals regularly and making sure that you have saved those passwords and things. Usually January and February is when you might get a notification that you're missing a transcript or a letter of recommendation or something. So make sure, especially with the new year, January, that you're starting to check those things. It's also where you might find information about orientation and housing and such for the schools that you have been accepted to. So also very important information as you start, planning past high school and into where you're actually going to go to college. So I cannot stress enough, make sure that you are checking your portals. And I think this last slide for me, there are, for the UCs and Cal States, some supplements that they may require in addition to their one application. So they're more rare, but it is really important to check each of your colleges based on the major that you're going to apply to. For example, Cal Poly San Luis Obispo has a portfolio requirement for their graphic design major. UCLA has a nursing supplement application for their nursing program. So these are for like unique and specific programs, but you want to make sure you don't miss anything. So just be double checking the requirements for your colleges and for the majors that you would be applying to. Okay, Ms. Pacheco, I think you're on.
All right, thank you, Nicole. Quick question. If I want to show the application, I can share my screen. Yes?
Yes, I would have to unshare my screen.
Okay.
And
So,
you would share your screen. So just let me know when we get.
So maybe we'll start with that because then I'll show them the Cal State app and then we'll go on to this screen.
Perfect.
For the audience, I am not the most techie person, but I am getting so much better, especially after being sheltering in place and learning all these new technologies. So I'm going to go ahead and pull up the Cal State application. So this is the high school coursework section of the application. There's just a couple things on here that I wanted to point out to you. One is when you put your senior year grade of courses in, it automatically populates in progress and planned. So this would be an example. So like AP Stat, you put that class in progress and plan pops up. If you are taking like advanced comp world lit, the way that it's broken down is that one semester is listed as advanced comp and one semester is listed as world lit. So you would have to put no course for the semester that you're not enrolled. So for example, if you're enrolled in advanced comp world lit, you would be in progress for advanced comp now, no course for second semester. And then for world lit, it would be no course for semester and plan second. If I just type in a class, let's say physics, then, no, well, normally it would pop up a thing for me, but it's not doing that right now. Okay, so normally it would pop up in progress and planned automatically for you, and then you have to go in and fix it. Another thing I wanted to point out, I'm just going to put geometry here. You'll notice for this one, actually, you know what? Let me do it for another grade level. So I'm going to do geometry here. So you'll notice that there are a few options. So there's geometry, there's course one, there's this K-12 one, there's a fuel one, geometry H is honors geometry. With the parentheses. So what you need to do is you need to be looking at your transcript because you're going to want to match the way that it's written on the transcript with the courses that you can select from. So it would be the geometry H or geometry would be your choices depending on which course you took. This K-12 one was an online program that the district had when you guys were freshmen, and Fuel was also an online program that was an option that the school district had. So you guys would not have been enrolled in that. So just make sure that you're selecting the course as it matches on your transcript. So I just want to make sure that you guys are aware of that. Then you would select the grades you received. And then, I don't know if I can move this. Let's see. Oh, there we go. You have to hit the check mark, otherwise it won't save it. So these are just some hints that I think will save you some time. So this is for the 8th grade and 7th grade. You're going to go ahead and put the titles of the courses that you took in middle school. You're going to use, it's going to be under Amador Valley. The school year is going to be the same school year as your freshman year, but the grade, you're going to indicate whether it was 8th grade or 7th grade. So I just wanted to make sure that you guys were aware of that. It's also for the matching. Let's see. We're going to, let's just say we'll go to the next section. For the matching, what's going to happen when you put your Spanish 1A, Spanish 1B, it's not going to record those for you. So you're going to have to click on update the letter, and then I've already done this, but normally this would be blank. You would put E here because E is for language other than English. And then you would click save to update it. I would leave the 7th grade one blank because the combination of 7th and 8th grade Spanish 1A, Spanish 1B counts as 1 year. If you list it twice, see how I left it blank? It's going to count it as 2. So leave 7th grade blank, and then you're going to put the E for 8th grade. Let me think other tips. Oh, when you are doing your school attended, when you click add a high school, see how it says you can do state, city, zip code, or the CEEB code. The CEEB code, when I tried to put that in for Amador, came up as a Indiana zip code. So go ahead, I would type in Pleasanton, CA. That seems to be the easiest way for it to come up. It makes it a little bit tricky when you're looking at outside schools because you may not know, like if it's an online school, what city and state they reside in. But if you go to the UC A through G list, you can put in the name of the school, and on their A through G, it will say the city and state that they reside in, and then you can type it in there. Again, the CEB code just seems to throw it off. So I wouldn't recommend using the CEEB code to locate the school. The other thing on the application is for, we're going to go here. For when you add programs, excuse me. So when you go to add in what schools you're applying to, it pops up for Bakersfield. So if you start selecting majors before you put the name of the school that you're applying to in, it's automatically going to be Bakersfield. So just want to give you a heads up on that. When you are searching, like if you search for Cal Poly, just know that Pomona is going to come up first because it's in alphabetical order. And then SLO will be underneath it. The other thing that you want to be aware of, and it's not going to apply here because Pomona has a November 30th deadline, but if it was another school, let's see, I found it was San Francisco State. So it's not super friendly on the searches either. So what you're just going to have to be super patient with the CSU application. I'm just going to scroll down and then it will eventually get to San Francisco. I can see if there's one. Go San Diego. So again, make sure you take your time and are super patient with this application. It's not super user-friendly, but it will help you appreciate the UC and the Common App. We are almost there. Okay, San Francisco State. So if you look at, because their deadline, you can see right here is December 30th. So even though the deadline for this particular school is November 30th, or sorry, is December 30th, you'll see like right here, Business Administration and Accounting, their deadline is November 30th. So just make sure, I'll go over the dates for the campus application deadline, but there may be some majors within that campus that have an earlier deadline. So as you're selecting your majors, I'm going to go ahead and select this one, although I think I did this earlier, not for you guys, but for myself while I was practicing, that you may have an earlier deadline than the deadline of the campus. So I'll just hit continue. Okay, so I think those are the ones, and then of course they'll give you the option to select an alternate, which I always do because, you know, if you really want to go to that school, if there's another major that might be a good fit for you, you might as well select another major. So I think those, oh, I do have one other one. Let's see. If I go, I just want to show you where the help area is. So if I go back to academic history, I'm just going to click on academic info. Go back to high school coursework. So if you go to Application Help Center, this is where you find the directions for the application. So most of the questions would be answered here. I would actually recommend that you read the section before starting to work on it. It will save you a lot of time, I think, and a lot of potential stress if you read it ahead of time. There's also this live chat area in the bottom right-hand corner. They're not admissions officers, but they will answer your technical questions if you have questions. And the only way you can get to that is by clicking on the help section. So those are the things with the application that I definitely wanted to share with you. And I will stop sharing. And then Nicole, if you don't mind sharing your screen again, that would be great. So again, just take a deep breath with the CSU application. Like I said, it's not super user-friendly, but once you kind of get the hang of it, it'll work a little bit better for you. There are 23 Cal State campuses within the state of California. So the most north is Humboldt and the most south is San Diego. You can go on to the next slide. So there is a link to the application on the screen. In a couple windows, it will show you which colleges have which deadlines. So some are the impacted in all majors. CSUs, their deadline's November 30th. December 15th is the majority of the CSU's application deadline. But again, please make sure you check the major within that school to make sure they don't have an earlier deadline. And then there are a handful that are even later than that. So you saw when I was looking at the San Francisco State one, their deadline is December 30th. Cal State East Bay has a deadline in February. So there are some that are actually later. We recommend that you finish your application by Thanksgiving. So the thing is even though you might have a December 15th or later application deadline, once you submit one of your CSU applications, that information locks in. So if you know where you're applying to, you might as well send all the applications in before the November 30th deadline. If you're on the fence, then certainly you can always wait. You do have a later deadline if you need to, but most of that information is already going to be in there and saved. If you are shooting for the November 30th deadline, even though you have a later application deadline, or you're applying to a school that does have a deadline of November 30th, please try to finish your application by Thanksgiving. It makes Thanksgiving break so much more relaxing for you and your family. The other piece of it is what happens when everyone logs into the same website at the same time? The website crashes. It happens every year. It's super stressful. Don't want you to have to go through that. So try and get it done early if you can. And again, like Nicole said, we have all these application workshops where we're available to answer your questions when we're in school. So try and get that done prior to that if you can. The cost is between $21,397 to $31,484. Interestingly, the least expensive one's Monterey Bay, and the most expensive one was San Diego State. So I just found that interesting, so I wanted to share. Tuition is $5,742. And then the differences are going to be based on housing, campus fees, and so on. There is no letter of rec, excuse me, or essays. You could use a subject test if you needed to meet a subject requirement, but again, they're not using the SATs for admissions purposes. To be eligible, you have to have at least a 2.5 GPA minimum. If you're between a 2.0 and a 2.49, they will let you apply. They're going to be using some additional factors to look at to see if you meet minimum eligibility. Cal Poly does use 9th grade grades to decide if you're going to be admitted or not, but the other grade levels are looking at your 10th and 11th grade A through G courses to determine your grade point average. You send a separate application to each of the CSUs, even though it's the same application form, but you have to submit each separately. And then there is a $70 fee per CSU application. The other thing that I didn't mention is when you first log into the application, it actually has you select 4 applications before, or 4 colleges before you move on to the next screen. I think part of that is because if you qualify for the fee waiver, you can waive up to 4 campuses. And so I think sometimes kids were applying to one, getting the fee waiver and not realizing that actually they could have applied up to 4 for free if they qualified. So this is what I was saying before that, excuse me, allergies. GPA of a 2.5 and above meet eligibility. Impacted colleges and impacted majors may be using supplemental factors for admissions. And then again, 2.0 to 2.49 would be evaluated with the supplemental factors, and those factors would vary campus by campus. And they can include, and there's a link here, so you can look at it later, but it can include exceeding the minimum A through G. So how many additional college prep classes did you take beyond the minimum subject requirements? They could look at a GPA in math or science. They can look at the extracurricular activities, any work experience, leadership involvement. So there's just a few questions which Cal Poly primarily has used in the past. And it just asks you, are you involved in extracurricular activities? If so, how many hours on average a week? How many weeks a year? Do you work? Same question, how many hours a week? How many weeks a year? And then is there a leadership position in your extracurricular activities? So it's pretty cut and dry, but they do potentially look at that. They also wonder if your work is related to your major. They ask if you are involved in an educational program such as AVID. So that is a positive thing to have on your college application if you're in AVID. And then there's some additional factors that they look at. Of course, each CSU looks at different supplemental factors. So if you click on the link, then it will take you to another link where you can click on the particular school that you're applying to, and it will break down which supplemental factors they look at for that particular campus. It can also vary by major as well. So the campus itself might not have supplemental criteria that they're looking at, but the major might have supplemental factors that they're looking at. Okay, next slide. Okay, so here's the different application deadlines. So the impacted colleges, and impacted just means that they have more applicants than spots available. These are the ones we typically see every year, although Cal State LA, I feel like a pretty recent one. But Fresno State, Cal State Fullerton, Long Beach, LA, Pomona, San Diego State, San Jose State, and Cal Poly. So all of those for all majors, deadline November 30th. December 15th, CSU Bakersfield, Channel Islands, Chico, Dominguez Hills, Monterey Bay, Northridge, Sac State, Cal State San Bernardino, Sonoma State, San Marcos, and Stanislaus. Later dates, so Cal State East Bay is in February, Humboldt State is in February, Cal Maritime you have until July, and then San Francisco State is December 30th. And then there's always the caveat to double check and see if they change. Hopefully they don't do that while we're applying, but fingers crossed. That's why I'm saying try and get it done by the November 30th deadline. Cal State apply application dates and deadlines for updates. So you can click on that. You can also check on the actual application, but again, knock on wood, hopefully they wouldn't change it after they open the application cycle. CSU redirection. So this means that you're eligible to apply to a CSU, you meet minimum eligibility, you applied to all the schools. Unfortunately, you weren't admitted to any of them. They do want to make sure that you get into a CSU. So they will contact you after April 5th and ask you to respond with your first and second choice of schools that you would like to be admitted to. Do it as soon as possible, especially for your first choice. And then hopefully your redirection will go to your first choice school and you'll be able to attend a CSU. Next slide. The California Promise Program is a program where students can apply. It's included in the Cal State application. And for some schools, it has particular majors. Not all CSUs participate, but you get priority registration, and the goal is for you to be able to finish college in 4 years. They want to try and make sure that you're taking the classes that you need and that you're able to get your degree in 4 years. There is a link down here if you're interested in getting more information. And then again, sometimes it's for specific majors. This happens to be a link for San Diego State, but if you look at the colleges that are listed, you're planning on applying to one of them, you can check and see if the major that you're hoping to apply for is a California Promise program. Next slide, please. Thank you. For the Cal State scholarship information, it's not included in the application. There is a separate CSU scholarship website, and then each Cal State also has their own scholarship application. So if you're interested in applying for scholarships for CSU, there's a link to the general CSU scholarship website. There are some general scholarships that you can apply for. And then again, you're going to want to apply for the scholarships, excuse me, for the CSUs that you are applying for. So you would need to contact the CSU to get the information for the scholarship page and then go ahead and fill out the application. Okay, freshman application checklist. So make sure you have a copy of your unofficial transcript. You guys would have gotten it during Access a couple weeks ago. If you have test scores, you can enter them in. SAT and ACT scores would only be used for like math and English placement. There's other ways that they can determine placement other than your SAT or ACT scores. They understand that due to the pandemic, most kids did not take either of those. Placement can be done with your grades in math and English in high school and the courses that you've completed. If you have your Social Security number, you can use that. Citizenship status that helps determine whether you're paying in-state or out-of-state tuition. Method of payment, parent citizenship status. Again, if you're a minor, then citizenship helps determine in-state or out-of-state tuition. They also use your high school that you attend address as well. Annual income, that's helped use for your fee waiver if you qualify, parents' employment background, and 2 recommendations if you're applying for EOP, that is a separate application for that. And then your California statewide student ID is optional. It's listed on your transcript under state ID. Sometimes people mistake it for that and think they're asking for your Social Security number because it's a really long number too. But they're asking for your California statewide student ID, and you can see it in Q under state ID or on your transcript. And again, it's listed as state ID. It's not your school ID. California Apply, Cal State Apply that's the website for the application. This is the phone number for tech support and the email address for tech support. The the chat, the live chat in the application is actually much faster than getting an email back or sitting on hold for the 1-857 number. So my recommendation would be to go to the Help Center, click on the live chat and get your question answered there. And then of course you have your wonderful counselors that are available during access and our night application night to answer any questions that you have. Okay, for the UCs, let me think if I want to show you guys anything on the UC app. Yes, let me pull that up real quick. Sign out of the Cal State one first. So if you don't want to hear about the UC application and you came just for your to hear about the Cal States or the private schools, we're only going to go over the UC application now. So we appreciate you coming. And if you are here to hear more about the UC application, then you can stay with us. Okay, let's see. Okay, so I'm just going to show you. Okay, so for the senior year, you actually have to put in progress and planned for the courses that you're taking. It will automatically populate whether it's an H, which means it's not an honors course, whether it's an AP course or an honors course. So you don't have to worry about that. So make sure, again, for like AP macro, you're not enrolled in it one semester. You're planned on taking it second semester if you're planning on taking it second. And then I just used an example of both. So obviously you're not going to do AP Gov, or sorry, AP macro and regular civics, but in theory, if you were, it would be in progress for this semester and then no for second. If you need to edit it, so if we wanted to add AP Gov, and like Nicole was saying earlier, they break it down by subject area. So if I wanted to add the AP Gov, I could do that. And then see how it just pops up. So you would put no here. And then we're going to unclick civics. And then we'll go down to the bottom and save it. Trying to think if anything else I want to show you guys. This is the scholarship section. They actually, well, let me jump. You're supposed to do it in order. So they don't let you jump around too much. Part of the reason why they want you to do it in order is because the scholarships actually populate based on the information that you share with them. So if you if you skip all this background information, you could be eligible for scholarships that won't pop up. And it could be related to your activities and awards. It could be related to your academic history or your campus or your major. So it doesn't let you jump around too much. For the personal insight, we'll get to that in a little bit, but there is an additional comment section. That's not going to be an extension of your personal insight questions, but I'll talk a little bit about the things that would go into the additional comment section in a little bit. There's also an additional comment section after the academic history. So I think this one is a lot more user-friendly. So I don't feel like I need to show you too many other things on here because I feel like it's pretty self-explanatory. So I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing And then Nicole, if you wouldn't mind pulling back up the slides, that would be great. And thank you everyone for coming tonight. We're just happy that you're here. So there's one application for all 9 campuses. This is the application link. Like Nicole said, it opened in August, but you can't submit it until between November 1st and November 30th. Again, same thing, try and get it done by Thanksgiving. The website crashes every year, so try and get it done early if you can. 4 essay questions that you get to select out of 8. It's a 350 word maximum. Total cost, this number is actually from the year prior. They hadn't updated it yet, so that's why it has a little asterisk next to it. Tuition is it's going to be 14,733. They have shared that the tuition is probably going to be going up a little bit each year, but they are working on passing something where the year that you enter, whatever that tuition is, they promise that it will stay the same for the next 6 years. So that way, when you're in school, they're not going to raise the tuition on you. You can kind of plan ahead and know how much college is going to cost. For eligibility GPA, it's a 3.0 or above. How the UCs are reviewed, you're going to be looking at the 13 factors. It'll be on another slide. But for most of the UCs, they are looking at it as a holistic view. So that means that one factor doesn't necessarily carry more weight than another factor, with the exception of UC Riverside that does actually provide points for specific criteria. But all the other colleges are looking at it overall and are reviewing the application multiple times by multiple readers. Okay, next slide. So these are the 13 factors that they're looking at. You'll notice something missing, and that is the SAT and ACT. They can't use that for admissions anymore. So they're looking at GPA, performance in, and number of courses beyond the minimum A through G requirements. Minimum A through G requirements, those are the subjects, the minimum subjects that you need to have in order to be eligible to apply. Nicole went over those earlier. A through G means they're the different subject areas. So A is history, G is fine art, B is English, C is math, D is science, and so on. UC approved honors courses and advanced courses. So they will look to see how many of those you've taken. Eligibility in the local contents. I've been getting a lot of questions about this lately. So what happens is your junior year, they ask for the top 15% of juniors. Families are asked to give permission to submit transcripts. They go to UC. UC determines what they feel like is Amador's top 9%. You find out whether you've been selected as ELC after you submit your application, and then you have to actually log back into the application after you've submitted it. And you log back in, and I believe the category is to check to see how your application is being evaluated. And then it will come up at that point. So we don't know who was selected as ELC. You're not going to know either until the application's submitted, and then you log back in. Quality of senior year program of study. So they want to make sure that you're maintaining the level of difficulty that you've had in prior years. Academic opportunities in California high school. So they're just looking to see what opportunities did you have available at Amador, and did you take advantage of those opportunities? And then outstanding performance in one or more subject areas. So maybe you're like amazing in physics, or you're amazing in math, or you're just amazing in everything. So they're looking to see that when they're looking at your application. For non-academics, achievements in special projects, improvement in academic performance, special talents, achievements and awards, participation in educational preparation programs. So again, that's like AVID, academic accomplishments in light of life experiences, and then geographical location. So again, just looking at you within the context of your community and your school. Okay, Next slide. Okay, deep breath, deep breath. So this feels like a lot. Just remember that this is the middle 25 to 75%. Remember that there is a 25% lower in the GPA of students admitted, and the admit rates look super low. They got a large number of applications last year. So I think as people were sheltering in place, especially for California residents, I think people were thinking that they would want to stay closer, not pay the out-of-state tuition. They had more time to work on applications because, you know, we were in a pandemic, we were sheltering in place, and school wasn't the full day. So please don't let this prevent you from applying. Again, they're looking at the overall student, the overall application. I have a little asterisk here with Santa Barbara because this number is actually from the 2019-2020 school year. They didn't have the updated middle 25 to 75%. They did have the average GPA. So I put the average GPA here in parentheses because that was the average from last year, but this is the year prior. I thought it would give good information to have both. So that's what has the asterisk, and I wanted to explain the difference between the two. But again, do not apply because of these numbers, but please apply broadly. Because as you can see, they are competitive. With ELC, you get extra points, you know, for the campuses. When they're looking at guaranteeing you a spot at a UC campus, you're probably looking at Merced, Riverside, sometimes Santa Cruz. So, you know, those might be considered your safe schools or the schools that you're within range for. And then some of the other ones might be dream school, or depending on your GPA, schools that you have a pretty good shot at. But again, make sure that you apply broadly. Next slide. Okay, so again, use your unofficial transcript. Don't do the application from memory. There is a 20-minute inactivity time limit. So if you step away, when you come back 20 minutes later, it will kick you out, but it will automatically save it, which is kind of new. There were years where it would kick you out and it didn't save it, and very, very frustrating, but they fixed that, so that's great. Type your personal insight answers in a Word document and then insert it into the application when ready. That'll save you a lot of time, especially with the time limit, and you don't want to feel pressured. One thing to kind of keep in mind is sometimes the word count in the program might be different than the word count on your outside program that you're working on. So just be mindful when you're pasting it in, just check the word count to make sure that you're within that 350. There is a help desk that's available for technical and application questions. And again, apply broadly. You have your reach schools, you have your target schools, you have your safety schools within the UC. Next slide. Activities and awards. So there's 6 categories. So you're looking at the awards and honors that you've received, educational preparation programs. So pretty much for Amador, that's AVID. Extracurricular activities. So it could be hobbies, could be clubs, could be sports. Other coursework that's non-A through G approved. We don't have a lot of those at Amador anymore. For the senior class, if you were in leadership your freshman and sophomore year, leadership was not considered college prep at the freshman and sophomore level when you were freshman and sophomore, and then your junior year, it got approved as a G elective. So that would be one. PE would be another one. Health is now a college prep class, so that wouldn't count. So I don't know that you're going to have a lot that's going to fall under this category. If you took something outside that wasn't college prep, then you would want to list it in there. But otherwise, those are the classes that you're pretty much going to be limited to. Volunteering or community service. So this is things that you've done that you did not get paid for, and then work experience are jobs that you've had that you were paid for. For extracurricular activities too, like while sheltering in place, it says hobbies. So you can include things that you did and learned while you were sheltering in place. So like for me, I learned how to cut hair. Not super well, but I improved. But that would be something that I felt like I learned during shelter in place. Other people might have picked up how to play a guitar or an instrument. Maybe you learned how to make masks. So things that, because they know while we were all sheltering in place, while it was during the pandemic, you couldn't practice with your sports teams and you couldn't compete with your sports teams, or you were meeting virtually for your club. So they know that things look differently during the pandemic, but you can certainly include those things in the extracurricular activity section. And then there's also the additional comment section where you can add some of that information in there as well. Okay, so let's see. So I kind of went over these. There's you can list up to 20, so that's quite a few. Try and maximize your space if you can. Like if there's a way to spread it out where you have some things in different categories, that's great. They're not going to judge you. Like, you know, if you're trying to figure out, well, is that really community service? Does that fall under an extracurricular? You know, they're not going to judge you by what category you put it in. Don't put the same thing in two categories though. Only list it once. But if you're not sure, whichever one you feel like makes the most sense is fine. I'm just looking to see if there's anything I didn't cover here. I think this is helpful where, you know, it's helpful to provide context. So if you won an award, let them know like what place you came in, how many people you were competing against, a description of that award. For clubs, if it's an acronym like the Sims Club, so science, or students interested in math and science. So they're not going to know what the Sims Club is because that's Amador specific. So if it's something like that, go ahead and explain it. I would say any acronym, go ahead and explain. If it's a sport, like if you play volleyball, you don't need to explain to them what volleyball is because they know what volleyball is. So again, kind of use your judgment, but they really want to know how many hours a week you were involved, how many years you were involved. So they want to see that you're consistently involved, that you're committed to it. Did you have a leadership role? So it could be like you were an officer. It could be that you were in charge of a project for that club. Leadership can be defined in many different ways. So just make sure that you give concrete examples. Like if you were the captain of the basketball team, like how did you get that award? Were you elected by your teammates? Did the coach select you? What were your roles? You know, did you lead the warm-ups before the game? Did you get to decide, like if you're in soccer, like which goal you get to defend? Like what was your role in that particular position? So again, make it concise, but make sure that if somebody hadn't heard of that club or doesn't know what you do in that club, that you go ahead and explain that to the person who doesn't know anything about it, and what your role is within that club or sport or activity. Don't use acronyms. So like I said, you know, spell out the names of clubs, let them know what it means. Don't list the activities in multiple areas. How else did you use your time? So is it a requirement? Were you helping out at home? I know, again, with the pandemic, looking after siblings or taking care of someone elderly, or maybe making masks and distributing them to people, picking up groceries for a neighbor. There was a lot of things during the pandemic that I think um, allowed for community service and volunteering to a limited extent, because again, it's a pandemic and you want to be safe too. So if you weren't able to do any community service, please don't feel obligated or responsible or badly that you didn't participate in those things. What did you do while you were at home? You know, were you helping your sibling, making sure they're getting their homework done? Were you helping? Did you learn how to cook? Maybe you started helping with laundry or some of the chores at home. So they just really want to get to know you as a student a little bit better, and it just provides some context of how you spent your time in these extracurricular activities. For UC San Diego, they have colleges within the university, and you have to decide which order you would prefer to be placed in one of the colleges. So basically, you're ranking the colleges. There is a link within the application. There's also a link here. So that you can read about the different colleges and decide which ones you would prefer, and then you would list them in ranking order. It has no impact on admission. So, you know, if you pick this particular college, it doesn't mean that you have a better chance of getting into that college or getting into the university. It's just that they all have their different focus. And so you just want to pick the theme or the one that you feel like would be the best fit for you. And that's only for UC San Diego. So this is what it looks like, and then you would just click on the buttons and it would go up and down depending on what your ranking would be. Okay, so personal insight questions. So you have 8 questions for you to select from. There's no right or wrong answer. You are going to want to try and look over the questions ahead of time. And they suggested that you actually think of it as like an interview. So look over the questions, pick the 4 that you feel like would be the best fit for you. And then I kind of like this idea where you have someone ask you the question and then you record your answer to it, because it is supposed to be set up more as an interview and less like an essay. So they're really trying to get to know you as a person, and they want a genuine answer from you. So again, there's no right or wrong answer. An essay from another college is not going to fit well here, because they're asking something from you that is totally different than from your essays from your other colleges. So they want it concise, they want it direct, they want it to the point, and they want to get information from you. They don't want it flowy, they don't want storytelling, they don't want you to be creative, they don't want you to use quotes, they don't want you to repeat the question. They just want to get to know you better. And so the more concrete examples you can give, the more information you can give, that's really helpful to them. They're asking you to be self-reflective. And I know sometimes as an adult, it can be difficult to be self-reflective, but especially as a teenager. And so as we go through, I have some specific questions that you can think about that I think will help break it down a little bit better for you. So this is the personal insight guide. There is a link that we will have towards the end of the presentation, because I know this is kind of small print, but we do have a link at the end, and it will help you kind of organize and brainstorm and plan out your personal insight questions. Just make sure that you're the one writing your personal insight questions. There is an integrity question within the UC application, but they stress to us that if you get caught plagiarizing your personal insight answers, you will never be able to attend a UC. So that's pretty hardcore, and I would not want that to happen to anyone. So just please don't, not that you would, but I just want to warn you, like, just please don't do it, because when you get caught, the consequence is, that's awful. And if you really want to go to a UC, you don't want to be barred for life from the UCs because you plagiarized your personal insight question. So again, make sure that you're the one writing it. And that's true too for your applications. It's kind of a sidebar, but we have had issues. Well, we haven't had issues, but there have been students who have had problems with their application because either their private counselor did their application and submitted it with wrong information in it, and that caused problems. There have been another one or two instances where, I mean, I think in both cases with the outside counselor, private college counselor, and in the other situations where a parent accidentally put in wrong information and submitted the application for the student. The intention, I think, comes from a good place, but you have to remember it's the student's application, so the student really needs to be the one completing it. And if a parent or a private counselor completes the application with wrong information and submits it, it's a mess to try and clean up. Okay, for the student and the parent and the private college counselor. So it's just, again, I think people are trying to help, but just, really the student should be working on it. And we want to make sure that it comes from the student, and that we want to avoid having those problems happen to you and your family. So anyways, that was a tangent, but just want to make sure that the student is doing the application themselves and is submitting the application that is reflective of them. Personal insight questions. So what do you want the UCs to know about you? So this is your chance to show in your own words. There are 8 prompts, you choose 4. Each response is limited to a maximum of 350 words. Which questions you choose is entirely up to you. They said at minimum it should be 250, but you do have 350. It gives you an opportunity, again, for them to get to know you a little bit better. It also gives you an opportunity to explain or clarify things within the application. So just kind of keep that in mind. And then all questions are equal. So there's no right or wrong question, and there's no right or wrong way to answer the questions. It's really for them to get to know you, your personality, your background, your interests, your unique voice. And personal questions are just that, they're personal. So the important thing is that you're expressing who you are, what matters to you, and what you want to share with UC. Start early, make sure you give yourself a lot of time. Even though the application isn't due till November 30th, it is open, so you can look at it now and start working on it. Use I statements, because really you're talking about yourself. And again, think of it as an interview. So if someone asks me, what leadership activity do you feel, do you want to talk about? Then I would say, oh, well, I was involved in. So that's where you use the I or the my statements. Proofread it. You're not evaluated on grammar or spelling or structure, sentence structure, but the reader needs to understand what you're saying. So just make sure that you're being clear and that the reader understands what you're trying to convey. And you can have other people read your essays, and then they can provide you feedback with what they're getting from your essay. So they can share, like, this is what I learned from your essay. Like, is this what you were hoping that I would learn, or were you hoping I would learn something else? And I think that's always good feedback. So again, it could be a family member, it could be a teacher, it could be a friend, it could be someone who doesn't know you very well. That's always helpful too. And again, it mentions not plagiarizing. You can copy and paste from another outside program. And then relax. This is one piece of information that they look at for admission. It's not going to make or break your application. It's just, again, it provides context and it lets them know a little bit more about you as a person. So avoid acronyms. and I think I talked a lot about this. So quotes, dialogue, repetition. Yeah, make sure you're not repeating it things over again, asking questions or inappropriate use of humor. Just remember that it's a probably a middle-aged adult reading your application. So sometimes like what is funny to a teenager isn't funny to adults. So just I would say just stay away from the humor. And they said that sometimes it comes across like you're trying to entertain the reader, and the admissions officers are like, we don't want to be entertained, so please don't try and entertain us. um, and acronyms, again, that can be tricky, so because people aren't going to know what you're referring to, and if you have to explain it, then that takes up more letters. Also, they're not going to click on links, so don't embed any links in your application because they're not going to go and look at it. So that was information that they wanted us to share with you. Okay, so prompt 1, describe an example of your leadership experience in which you have positively influenced others, helped resolve disputes, or contribute to group efforts over time. So again, leadership role, it's more than a title. So it could be like you're a mentor, you can be in charge of a specific task, lead a group in an event or a project. Maybe you're a leader within your friend group or your family. So think about what accomplishments and what you've learned from your experience. Your leadership role doesn't necessarily have to be limited to school activities. So again, what are your responsibilities? Did you lead a team? Did you help out or take care of your family? How did your experience change your perspective on leading others? I would say, what have you learned from it? Did you help resolve an important dispute or issue at your school or organization? So, and again, it could be within the school, within the community, but thinking about your leadership experience and how you've helped other people. So that would be one prompt. Prompt 2, every person has a creative side and it can be expressed in many ways. So problem solving, original and innovative thinking, and artistically, to name a few. Describe how you express your creative side. What does it mean? What does creativity mean to you? So, like we usually think art or clothing design or drawing or drama, but creativity again could be problem solving or creating things too. So, do you have a creative skill that's important to you? What have you been able to do with that skill? If you have creativity to solve a problem, what was your solution? What steps did you take? So again, they're looking for really concrete details. How has your creativity influenced your decision inside or outside the classroom? Does your creativity relate to your major or future career? So looking at what did you do? Give concrete examples. What did you learn from it? And then what are you doing with it moving forward? What would you say is your greatest talent or skill? How have you developed and demonstrated that talent over time? So again, they're going to be looking at what it is. Please describe it. How have you developed it? So what steps have you gone through to show your skill? And then the duration of it. So how have you improved? How is that measured? What does that look like? So you don't have to necessarily be recognized for it or receive an award for it. But if you have, you certainly can include that. So why is this talent or skill meaningful to you? Does the talent come naturally, or have you worked hard to develop the skill or talent? Does your talent or skill allow you opportunities in and outside the classroom? And if so, what are they and how do they fit into your schedule? So do you spend a lot of time outside of school, practicing, competing, showing, performing? What does that look like? Okay, next slide. Describe how you've taken advantage of a significant educational opportunity or work to overcome an educational barrier you've faced. So just remember for this one that everybody experienced COVID together. And so if you have something that's specific to you that you feel like, yes, this makes sense for me to write on this prompt on this subject, then certainly you can do that. They are asking that you put information about COVID and other like natural disasters, so like fire, flood, anything that you experience in the additional comment section. So if you feel like this prompt does speak to you and you feel like COVID does fall in this category, then certainly, yes, you can write about it. But just know there's another space for that to provide context. If you feel like, yes, I need to provide context, but that I don't necessarily need to take a prompt to explain that about my COVID experience. So an educational opportunity can be anything added to your educational experience and better prepared for college, for example, honors or academic enrichment programs, or enrollment in an academy that's geared towards an occupation or major, or taking advanced courses that interest you, just to name a few. So if you could write, if you choose to write about educational barriers you faced, how did you overcome them or strive to overcome them? What personal characteristics or skills did you call on to overcome this challenge? And then how did you overcome this barrier help shape who you are today? So again, sharing your experience, giving concrete examples. What did you learn from it? Where are you going forward? Describe the most significant challenge you have faced and the steps you have taken to overcome this challenge. How has this challenge affected your academic achievement? So a challenge could be personal or something you faced in the community or school. This is an opportunity to talk about any obstacles you faced and what you've learned from them. So why was this a challenge for you? Did you have support from someone else, or did you handle it on your own? If you're currently working your way through a challenge, what are you doing now, and what aspects of your life are being impacted? So how has my life changed at home, at school, with my friends, or with my family? Think about what inspires you. What subject inspires you? Describe how this area of interest inside and out, describe how you have furthered this interest inside and outside of the classroom. So have you applied your knowledge to other things in the community or at home, in volunteering or in internship? Again, if you had something maybe, and I would say I would put this in the additional comment section, but if there was something that you were supposed to be a part of, whether it was like a summer camp or an internship that didn't happen because of COVID, you can explain that in the additional information section. You can also list it in your extracurricular activities. So if you were planning on doing something, but it got canceled due to COVID, you can go ahead and put that in there and then just explain that you had planned on doing that, but then it got canceled due to COVID. Discuss how your interest in the subject developed and describe any experience you've had inside and outside the classroom, such as volunteer work, summer programs, participation in student organizations and activities, and what you have gained from your involvement. Has your interest in the subject influenced you in choosing a major or career? Have you been able to pursue coursework at a higher level in the subject, honors, AP, IB, college, or university work? Okay. Prompt 7, what have you done to make your school or community a better place? So think of community as a term that can encompass a group, team, or place. So your high school, hometown, or home. You can make community as you see fit. Make sure you're talking about your role within that community. So was there a problem that you wanted to fix? Why were you inspired to act? What did you learn from your effort? How did your actions benefit others, the wider community, or both? Did you work alone or with others to initiate change in your community? Maybe you were involved in some things around the social justice movement. Maybe you were involved in things through leadership at school or through a club at school. Maybe you help maybe you volunteer at the city of Pleasanton. So there's a lot of different opportunities that and experiences that you may have been a part of that might you might use to answer prompt 7. And prompt 8, beyond what has already been shared in your application, what do you believe makes you stand out as a strong candidate for admissions to UC Santa Barbara? So I went to UC Santa Barbara, University of California. Don't be afraid to brag a little bit. So they really want to know from you, like, what makes you a strong candidate? So what would you bring to the school that maybe somebody else wouldn't? So why do you feel like you belong on the campus? When looking at your life, why would a stranger need to understand? What does a stranger need to know to understand you? What have you not shared with us that would be a highlighted skill, talent, challenge, or opportunity that will help us get to know you better? So I always think that's a fun question. Like, what would you bring to the school if you ended up attending? And keep in mind that it's the same application that goes to all the UCs. So with my slip up, I shouldn't say like, well, UC Santa Barbara, I feel like I'd be the best fit for you because my application is also going to UCLA and UC Davis and UC Berkeley and UC Merced. So just keep in mind, one application to all the schools. Don't identify one particular campus in your answers for any of the prompts. Okay, so I'm not going to read this. I'm very aware that we're running over on time. So basically, the first example is very well written. So it's very descriptive. It's very storytelling. It's, like what clothes they wear when they work out, and it's a beautiful day, but you don't really get to know the gist of how often do you practice? How many hours do you practice? What place have you come in? How many other runners did you compete against? How many years have you been running? Did you do any community service related to running? What have you learned from it? How will you move forward with it? So this does not do any of those things. It's very well written, but you don't really know a lot about the runner. So if we look at example 2, that is where we get all the specifics that we need. So we know that they train 40 to 50 miles a week. They've been running for 4 years. They're the captain and they're in charge of workouts. They came in the top 5 for 30 against 30 to 50 runners in their field. They ranked 4th in their school district. So you get all this information from them. I know a lot about them and their running. And that is the intent of your personal insight. So I would use example 2 as a positive example. Obviously, you don't want to get locked in by it, but if you're looking at trying to get kind of a perspective of the information, the type of information that they're looking for, that this would be a good example. So yay, example number 2. Next screen. Additional comment section. So this is an optional section and shouldn't be used to extend your personal statement, but it does give you an opportunity to clarify any important details about honors, awards, or activities. If you've had any unusual circumstances, describe anything that you've not had a chance to describe in the rest of the application. Just was looking at my notes too. It's 550 word limit. There is a section for academic and there is a section for your personal inquiry questions. So for the academic section, one good thing to put in there would be our grading policy for spring 2020, fall 2021, and spring 2021, and we'll share that with you. Also probably want to let them know just context. So, that we were on remote learning for essentially a year, that some students decided to come back for hybrid in the spring, but this year is the first time we're back in person. So I think that's good context. The other thing that I think is good context is for the period of time that we were sheltered in place, because even though this is the University of California and they're going to be aware of what shelter in place look like, within California, the experience within California can be different from location to location too. So, whether you lived in LA or San Diego or Fresno or Pleasanton, it looked different during the shelter in place. Okay, next slide. So other things that you might want to mention, the fires last year and this year, how did that impact you and your family? The social justice movement, did that have an impact on your major choice, or how did that impact you? Changes to extracurricular activities due to COVID. So in some situations, there were a loss of opportunities. In other situations, there are newly found opportunities. If you were supposed to play a sport like in the spring of your junior year, no, let me back up. On the spring of your sophomore year, you probably started it and then it got shut down. So you certainly could explain that. Last spring, it was kind of a combo of a bunch of different sports activities. So some of you may have been able to play a shortened season. Some of you may have not felt comfortable playing because of COVID. So you can go ahead and explain that in the additional comment section as well. How did COVID fires or social justice movement impact decisions when applying for UC? You can explain that. Any organizations are interested students that interest the student at the UC, you can mention that. And then how you plan on engaging with the community if admitted to UC. So if you have space and you feel like you didn't get a chance to explain that, or you didn't want to use one of your questions to explain that, you can put that in there. Next slide. Here is the language for the grading system. Other things you can put in there is like if you wanted to take a course, but then there weren't enough kids that signed up, so the course wasn't offered. If your grades drop because of remote learning, you can explain that and explain, a little bit of context. So, maybe you didn't have access to Wi-Fi, or your Wi-Fi was not great, especially with like 4 or 5 family members trying to use the same Wi-Fi, or other personal experiences. If there's a student or school name change, you would put that in there. And then changing again from remote learning to hybrid to in-person, just again, providing some context for the college. And then here are a couple other examples. One is academically related, talking about being selected for a very competitive class. Most of our classes are open access. The only 2 I can think of that might fall in that category would be leadership and We the People. And then the other one is just explaining, unfortunately, this example is a student who was in a car accident and how that impacted them physically and then academically, like what that looked like for them, and why their grade maybe not as high as it would have been if the accident hadn't happened. Scholarship information is embedded within the college application. Like I said, go ahead and do that in order. So then that way, the scholarship opportunities that you are eligible for will pop up, and you can go ahead and select those. Next slide. I'm going to go through these kind of quickly because I feel like we've been keeping you here for so long. Okay. So, and then these are just the resources. So the application page, the online, so the UC admissions page, it has directions and information, online application link, the comprehensive review. So it goes over the 13 criteria that they look at. You see insight questions. That's where that 2-page document that you can use to help brainstorm. You can use that link. Tips for getting started. This one, the UC tips and tools for California freshman application. This one is actually from 2019-2020, but I looked at it and it's still relevant. There wasn't an updated one, but you can still look at that one. And then the steps you can follow after you apply to UC. There is an email address that you can email if you have questions. There's also a 1-800 number. They don't have a live chat within the UC application, I would say try the 1-800 number before email. I think you'd get an answer more quickly. But again, come to our access workshops during access on Wednesdays and Thursdays. And then also Thursday night is the application workshop drop-in. And then just a quick reminder, I just mentioned these things, but again, it's 5 to 7:30 in the library. There is going to be a push out video for financial aid on November 17th. UC application deadlines November 30th. CSU application deadline varies, but I would shoot for the November 30th deadline if you can. FAFSA financial aid deadline is March 2nd, and then Las Positas priority enrollment is typically January and February. I think last year it was actually March, but now that we're not shelter in place, I would imagine it's going back to the earlier date. So thank you so much for your time and attention. You've got this. I appreciate you hanging with us for the past 2 hours. We appreciate you coming. Just make sure to take care of yourself. We know it's a stressful time and we're here to help. You are not defined by your test scores, GPA, and college you accept by or attend. Your family and friends still like you just the same, regardless of what college you end up going to. You're an amazing person. So just kind of keep that in mind and keep that perspective. And we just want to thank you so much for coming tonight on behalf of myself and Nicole Tuick, who did an amazing job presenting. And to the Amador counselors that are here tonight as support. So Ms. Zorincat, Ms. Yu, Ms. Perry, Ms. Ponce, we all want to thank you for coming tonight. And we're all here to, and Ms. Bell as well, we're all here to help support you. So please let us know what you need help with, and we're here to help, and have an amazing evening. Thank you so much for coming.
If I end it, will it all just be okay?
I think
Will it save?
I think it's still recording though. Yeah,
It is, but that'll just stop when I end it. Okay.
okay.
Awesome. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.